The Evolution of the Music Player, narrated by Joshua Guth.
I don't want to set the world on.
While experimenting with the new telegraph device, Thomas Edison stumbles upon the beginnings of recorded sound. He notices a speech-like noise as he accidentally runs indented tinfoil under the telegraph stylus. By the end of the year, he records "Mary Had a Little Lamb" on the first working phonograph, becoming the first inventor to successfully record the human voice, although the speaker is forced to shout to produce an audible playback. By 1885, rival inventors Chichester Bell and Charles Tainter challenge Edison's phonograph with their graphophone. The graphophone, like Edison's phonograph, creates sound as an engraved wax cylinder rotates against a stylus. Edison responds in 1887 with a phonograph that utilizes a battery-driven motor, which produces a constant pitch that original hand crank can't match.
And with your admission that you feel the same, I'll have reached the goal I'm dreaming of. Believe me, I don't.
The Columbia Phonograph Company achieves little success until it begins to record music to send to fairgrounds to accompany its leased graphophones, thus resulting in the birth of nickel jukeboxes. The popularity of the fairground jukeboxes allowed the Columbia Graphophone Company, the company changes its name in 1894, to survive the dwindling economy of the 1890s and to become the only graphophone leasing company to turn a profit. Though extremely popular, the first jukeboxes are limited by the impossibility of mass-producing the bulky cylinders used in the graphophone.
I see a red door and I want it painted black. No colors anymore, I want them to turn black.
By the 1920s, the Radio Corporation of America, or RCA, begins mass-producing commercial radios. KDKA in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, becomes the first commercial radio station to receive call letters and begins regular broadcasts by announcing the returns of the presidential election. Though sound quality and reception on the radio could not rival the quality of discs at this time, the radio company rushed to draw up contracts to forbid major artists from working in the rival medium. These efforts to limit the output of radio are thwarted, as improvements in radio technology rapidly refine sound quality and reception. Record sales plummet as a result.
I see my red door, I must have it painted black.
Maybe then I'll fade away and not have to face the fact.
The race to establish the new dominant record format begins when Columbia introduces the first 12-inch, 33 rotations per minute microgroove, long-playing vinylite record in 1948. The LP enters the market with a bang. Columbia ensures success by releasing a back catalog on LP, along with a cheap means of playing the new format. RCA retaliates half a year later with its own format, a 7-inch disc, also with microgroove and vinylite. The RCA disc is also introduced alongside a cheap means of playing its format, and the 7-inch single quickly becomes the standard for the jukebox. In 1950, RCA releases records on the 12-inch Columbia format, and in 1951, Columbia follows suit with the release of records on the 7-inch RCA format. With 78 RPM discs still available, it takes a decade for a standard playing speed to be determined.
Turn my head until my darkness goes.
American inventors introduced the first portable audio tape recorders in 1951. In 1958, RCA offers cassette tapes for $1 more than the vinyl album. But it isn't until 1964 that the cassette tape has its commercial breakthrough, and Philips introduces its own 30-minute format for the tape cartridge and allows other manufacturers to duplicate the specifications. This standardization of cassette tapes creates a market for an inexpensive and portable solution to reel-to-reel tape. With the price of a blank tape around $3 and a vinyl album at $6 by the end of the 1960s, the record companies start to worry about the recordable cassette affecting their sales. Philips and Sony announced plans to work together to come up with a uniform standard for a compact disc, or CD, in 1978. In 1982, record companies announced a worldwide standard that ensures that all CDs will play on all CD players. Billy Joel's 52nd Street, released in 1982 in Japan, becomes the first CD released in the world. By 1988, the CD surpasses the LP in sales. With the introduction of the CD, the 80s becomes the most explosive boom period in recorded audio history, as consumers replaced their vinyl collections. Within 3 years of the CD's arrival in the marketplace, the electronics industry sells 1 million CD players. By contrast, it took 11 years for color television manufacturers to sell 1 million units. The world's first mass-produced hardware MP3 player was created in 1997 by Saihan Information Systems, which domestically sold its MP-Man player in April 1998. In mid-1998, the South Korean company licensed the players for North American distribution to Eiger Labs, which has rebranded them as Eiger MP-Man F10 and F20. The flash-based players were available in 32 megabytes, which is roughly 6 songs worth of storage capacity. On October 23, 2001, Apple Computers unveiled the first generation iPod, a 5 GB hard drive-based MP3 player. With the development of a Spartan user interface and a smaller form factor, the iPod was initially popular within the Macintosh community. In July 2002, Apple introduced a second generation update to the iPod. The Apple iPod remains to be the most dominant music player in the current industry.